Good morning, South Africa. An article appeared in the Independent Online by the journalist Sean Rahl. The title is Washed Up Musician, Controversial Freedom Front Plus MP Team Up to Fight Trump's White Genocide Spin. Well, before I get into it, there's already a problem there. It's not Trump's white genocide spin. It's your spin. The leftist media in South Africa are the ones who keep bringing this up. Trump hasn't said anything about white genocide. The last time he made a comment about that, when he was asked the question in the Oval Office in May during Ramaphosa's visit, he was directly asked, do you still believe there's a white genocide in South Africa? To which Trump said, I'm not convinced of that. So he's not talking about a white genocide. Once again, the leftist media in South Africa are the ones that are spinning that tale. Now, the article is posted in the news section of the IOL, not on the opinion editorial page. From the title, it's already clear that this is not news, but rather opinion. Washed up musician? Really? Folks, I've been to a Steve Hofmeyr concert with over 8,000 roaring, adoring fans. He's hardly washed up. Controversial Freedom Front Plus MP? Well, that's flat out false. Renaldo Gouws is not and never has been a Freedom Front Plus member of parliament. She even much later in the story correctly identifies that Gouws was a Democratic Alliance member of parliament. See, already in the title, we have opinion and a lie. As the article begins, Sean Rahl calls Hofmeyr a once famous musician. Well, for starters, Steve Hofmeyr is hardly once famous, nor is he just a musician. He's an actor, an author, a songwriter, a musician, a businessman, and an outspoken proponent for his folk. Then she once more incorrectly labels Renaldo Gouws as a Freedom Front Plus member of parliament, adding in the lie, frequently accused of peddling racist rhetoric. Well, she could well be describing her own employer, not Renaldo Gouws. Next, in an effort to support her comical claim that Hofmeyr is washed up, she mentions the DHL Greenpoint Stadium concert, which the promoter screwed up, noting that only 8,000 tickets were sold. Lacking context, her inclusion of this factoid really just falls flat. To be fair, Steve Hofmeyr himself is quoted as stating that most Afrikaners were in awe of what Trump was doing, relating to the refugee program. While anecdotally, I can reach the same conclusion myself, we don't have any surveys or polls to prove what Afrikaners are thinking about this. She then claims Gouws, who was booted from the DA following an IOL expose on his racist past. Now, folks, there's two problems here. First, the IOL expose was an illegitimate story, and she fails to mention that her news organization was censured by the press ombudsman over its editing of the video to distort the story and intentionally mislead its readers, defaming Renaldo Gouws and costing him his seat in parliament as the cowardly Democratic Alliance caved like wet paper towels. Also, she fails to mention that the Independent Line withdrew from the press ombudsman program after being held accountable for its yellow journalism and destroying Renaldo Gouws' career. Now, her statement of his racist past is unfounded and is likely, in South Africa, under the law, crimina injuria, and certainly, as a media outlet, is libel as it appears in print. It seems that the Independent Line never learns from its past errors. Just because you're no longer under the press ombudsman doesn't mean people can't sue you for libeling them in print. Now, the story is not only defamatory and fake news opinion published on the news page, it's also riddled with additional factual errors. Last week, only 3 people turned up for a flight destined for the U.S., even though the U.S. government reserved 50 seats. Now, this story was published on October 30th, 2025. The empty seat story comes from last week's Washington Post article based on information that the State Department shared with the Post. But this occurred during the 3rd week of September, 5 weeks ago, not last week. The U.S. government is shut down and has been shut down all of October. Refugee flights have been canceled since at least September 26th. Folks, this is just plain lazy. How can one trust a publication that copies from other news sources and does not even bother to report the information that they copied correctly, let alone the necessary context? It wasn't a single day last week. It was the 3rd week of September, and it was a week, over the course of a week, 7 days, an average of 7 seats that purportedly went empty that week, as they were canceling flights. Now, next we see correct information incorrectly interspersed with supposition to distort reality. To date, at least 59 white South Africans have left for the U.S. as part of the special refugee program. Well, that's certainly true. 59 white South Africans have come over, and many more. However, the Post correctly reported last week that less than 400 South Africans have already arrived. But that includes whites, coloreds, and Indians, a fact that she neglects to mention. And the 59 is a reference to the 59ers, who I call the 59ers, that arrived back on May 12th, the first and only cohort to travel as a group. Then she says the first group of 59 left in May this year, while the second group left in June. Again, facts misused. One group of 59ers came over in May. Since then, every other South African refugee has come over in the way I predicted they would, traveling on commercial flights, not in groups. Folks, this article manages to malign Steve Hofmeyr, libel Renaldo Gouws, and intentionally mislead readers about many things. The questions now are, was it intentional? Or is it just lazy journalism? Perhaps it's a mixture of both. Or, frankly, is this just journalistic malpractice? You decide. You tell me. What do you think it is? This is not news. Yes, there's a news story that Renaldo Gouws has a petition against the 44 betrayers who lie about the experience in South Africa from their elite ivory towers, privileged elite Afrikaners, who deign to speak for 2.8 million Afrikaners. That's true. That's newsworthy. And Steve Hofmeyr's encouraged people to sign it. But it's a hack job using that news filled with opinion and incorrect information and outright lies. This is shameful, a disgrace. This is why people don't trust journalism, why they don't trust media outlets. Because this isn't news. It's propaganda, disguised as news. Opinion on the news page. What say you, South Africa? Mzansi? I say this one gets a failing grade. Cheers.
You know the words. It's all the words.